Hello, this is Margaret Craig, and welcome to the Small Steps to Wellness show. In this show, I'm taking deep dives on a variety of topics with a variety of guests. So, without much further ado, on with today's show. Hi, everyone. I'm here with Vicky Garnett-Ash today. I don't know how this is going to go because Vicky, you've just put your daughter, who's one and a bit, right, down for a nap. And if anyone has got children, you know that how long they sleep. That's no one knows. So welcome. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me, Mary.
It's really, really good to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time, but you, like me, have three children, and I can't remember. So my son was born in September 2022, and I can't remember. I think you might have been pregnant already then with your third as well.
Yes, it was funny because I remember when you told me that you were pregnant with your third and you were a bit
Shocked.
surprised.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I did think of you as soon as I found out because I was also very surprised.
It is yeah, you kind of think you know what you're doing, and all of a sudden it's like, oh right, okay. But we've had very, very different journeys, and you've been on my mind so much to the point that, and this is not helpful to anyone, but and I don't know if you've had this discussion with anyone else, but you have three children, and your youngest, this gorgeous girl, there was quite a lot of complications when she was born, and I can't help but sometimes think that I feel almost a little bit guilty for having a healthy child. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
understand. I
Yeah.
understand because I think you just feel, because I think you always put yourself in somebody else's position and feel, how would that feel? What would I do? And it sounds horrendous. It sounds just like hell, basically.
Yeah.
Um,
Talk me through
and
it a little bit, because what did you know before she was born? Did you know anything? Did you?
didn't know that there were any health complications at all. No. So Layla was born a day after her due date at home as planned. I'd had my second baby at home. Um, and amazingly, the water was off that day. We'd had it all planned, the water bath like I'd had with my second birth. And then that morning, the water was just off in the village. The whole of the village was without water. And it didn't come back on until 2 minutes after Layla was born.
So much
it
for a
was
water birth.
it was not meant to be. But yeah, Layla was born needing to be taken to hospital pretty quickly because she just wasn't getting to temperature. So, I mean, she was still attached to the cord to me for like an hour. And soon after that, the doula that was with me just wasn't happy about her not getting to temperature, and her hands and feet were just a little bit blue. And she just wouldn't warm up properly. So we called the ambulance, got rushed to Pembury, then 6 hours later, rushed on to Medway, and then about 15 hours after that, rushed to Great Ormond Street.
That's when you know it's serious, right?
So it all happened quite quickly.
Yeah.
But straight away, the doula turned to me and said, "I think Layla may have Down syndrome."
Yeah.
So that was the first time we'd heard anything about Down syndrome. And then when we got to the hospital, we discovered that Layla had heart condition. At some point over the next 15 hours, we learned that it was actually 3 holes and a chamber wall that Layla was missing in her heart. She also had pulmonary hypertension. So she was on a respirator. Yeah, and that went on. We were at Great Ormond Street for 6 days, but it actually felt like 6 months. When I look back at it just seemed to go on forever. But the care that Layla received was incredible. We were sent back to our local hospital and spent 2 weeks there, just getting on top of feeding and getting Layla off oxygen, which which she did come off the oxygen. She did amazingly well.
Yeah.
She was drinking milk herself, and yeah, brought her home for 4 months to fatten her up. Basically, she needed to be a certain weight to have her heart operation.
Yeah.
And yeah, we went to Great Ormond Street to have that done when she was 4.5 months old. So last October. And yeah, she needed to have a feeding tube for about a month and a half before her operation, because yeah, she was just working so hard that drinking was becoming a bit too much for her.
It's
So yeah,
hard when they're little because they have to learn as well, don't they, to feed?
yes,
It's hard. Yeah.
yeah, and also with cardiac babies, they don't like you to breastfeed, which was the biggest challenge actually for me over that period.
We had a conversation
Um,
around that, I remember.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was difficult, but you know, as the cardiac team told me, you know, Layla is basically running around a park full time trying to keep her heart, you know, pumping this blood that half of it just keeps going round and round and round and round because of the holes. So yes, she had to be on a particular kind of milk, a high energy formula. And I got to the point where mastitis was just coming back, because I was allowed to try and feed her, but after her bottle. So she was never going to empty the breast. So it was just a bit of a dangerous cycle, really. So I had to call it a day in the end. You know what it's like having 3 children and having
And
those issues.
mastitis.
It's not easy, is
It's
it?
awful.
So
It's awful.
yeah, but we got to the heart operation, and it was a success. And she was home, you know, 10 days after having that operation done, which was incredible.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Do you know, my eldest daughter, she needed extra oxygen, but only for a couple of days. And I remember, I don't know how you felt, but when they took her off the monitor, I was like, how will I know if she's okay, that she can breathe? And they were like, well, she's not gonna, like, you're gonna have to take her home. But it's a scary feeling, isn't it?
It
When all of a
is.
sudden you have this baby that, and obviously we had a very, very mild case of just inhaling meconium. It wasn't anything major, but you know, when you're so used to hearing those beeps and then they
Yeah,
take it off and you're like, but now how do I know?
yeah,
um it's an
yeah.
interesting feeling. Because you've got 2 other children, how how's it been for them? Because this is the other thing, you're already a parent to 2 children.
Yeah.
um and they're obviously a little bit older, not that much older, but a little bit older. How are they dealing with everything at this stage?
I think last year was really tough for my eldest, who's turning 10 on Thursday. He It was really difficult for him, because we were there and then we disappeared. You know, mummy was supposed to be having this baby at home, and they'd come home from school and hooray, here's the new baby. And actually, we disappeared for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So I think at that time Monty was 4, so it was easier for him to, you know, he was okay. He was with daddy. But Bertie, yeah, he's quite an emotional soul anyway. And it was difficult, really difficult, just being away from your children.
Yeah.
Is it's such a difficult, and you don't really want them to be in that hospital environment either, because you worry that they'll see all the tubes and they'll see all the, amazingly, when they did come in, you know, as the nurses said to me, you'll find that the children, they rarely see it. They'll see their sister, and that's what they see, and they won't even notice all of this stuff. And it was actually very true with the younger, but with Monty. But my eldest actually got to feed Layla her first ever milk at sort of 5 days old. So that was a really, and he still talks about that to this day. So it was great that we could get him involved with Layla's care.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I can't even imagine. they worry, don't they? Because they're at an age 10. You're at an age where you're that much more developed than at
Yeah,
4. And so
yeah,
you understand the bigger picture a little bit more as well, don't you?
yeah.
Yeah, that's a
But
tricky.
they adore Layla. They just absolutely dote on her. They really do, which is just beautiful.
Yeah, no, she's running the house, isn't she? It's kind of the same in our house. But listen, so you have this throne upon you, and becoming a mom for the first, second, third, whatever, however many times is hard enough, because you are changing your whole family dynamics. But when you're becoming a mother to a child who's got holes in her heart, and you had it confirmed that she has Down syndrome, right?
Yeah,
So I feel like, because you've been amazing at educating those of us who follow you on social media, is that something that you feel like you now have to do? Because you don't just become a parent, you become like a warrior, an advocate,
yeah,
an educator.
yeah, for sure. It's something that I feel really strongly about, because the other people out there that do that very same thing have helped me and my family tremendously. Um, I had never known anybody with Down syndrome before in my life. There was never a child at my school, nothing. So I was really in the dark about what this meant initially. Um, and it was social media and a charity called Positive About Down Syndrome who have just been incredible and so helpful, and just following a few people that speak and share positively about the condition on Instagram has just been such a huge help. Um, so yeah, if I can help just one other family in the same way, then I will be so happy. Um, and it's really, for a few reasons. So it's helping other families that have just maybe gone through the same kind of scenario that we did. It's also really to help those couples that may have found out that they're possibly going to have a baby with Down syndrome whilst they're still pregnant. Obviously, I wasn't, that didn't happen to us, but it does happen to many people. And I think there's a lot of medical pressure within the medical system to possibly not continue that pregnancy. And I think that must be a really dark place to be, and a really difficult place to navigate for anybody. And I know that Positive About Down Syndrome do a lot of work with people that work in the medical industry, and just trying to get people to use better language, and to have more knowledge, because it can just be so outdated, people's knowledge of what children with Down syndrome and adults with Down syndrome can and do achieve in their lives. And it's just so important to share that information. And of course, it's not been easy the last year. There has been challenges for us with Layla. And so I do try to share the ups and the downs. I don't want people to think that it's all rosy and easy. Of course, there's been lots of medical issues for Layla. So yeah, it's just trying to get that balance. And it's currently Down Syndrome Awareness Month. So it's really great to just share in my stories each day this month. Just really, and I think that really helps people around me, family, friends, closer people that also aren't going on this massive learning journey that I'm doing. They're not ordering all the books that anyone's ever written about Down syndrome like I am. So it's just really helpful to share that knowledge with them as well.
And does it help you as well, I suppose, deal with it? Because I mean, let's be honest, it was probably a bit of a shock, right?
Yes, it was. It was a shock. I think, my initial thoughts in those first 12 hours was, oh, what have I done? I've ruined my whole family's life. I mean, that's what I thought. I've ruined my children's lives. What have I done? And I don't know why I thought it was just me that had done this thing.
Because you're a woman and that's how we operate, I think. I think that's the answer to that.
Yeah. And two, Layla is incredible. She has opened my world in more ways than anyone else could have. And she's already made me a better version of myself. And I know that she will do that for our whole family.
Yeah.
And I'm just so excited. I'm so in love with her. I'm so excited to see, her unfolding and her life. It's a difficult one because, as you would with any child, you're not usually given a baby and given this sort of synopsis at birth as to what this child might achieve in their lives or what their limitations would be. And, when you look back, or friends that I have with older children turn around and say, well, if I'd have been told that that was going to happen when they were born, I would have been beside myself, So it's almost like it's all handed to you, like, here you go, deal with this. And actually, none of that might be true anyway.
Yeah.
So,
And vice versa. You might give birth to a child that you think is absolutely healthy, and they might go on to have all kinds of challenges. You never know.
yeah,
You never know with any. But it's I think you're right when you're saying that there's a lot of outdated information and there's a lot of prejudice sort of views, I suppose. And I mean, I have a friend whose child got diagnosed with diabetes. Can't remember what age, but quite young. And she's also become this advocate for sort of diabetes and educating everyone. And I think it's really important to, although it's not your job is just to be their parent, right? But I think it is still a really important job that you're doing to educate people. And as you say, if you can help one person change their mind, change their view, or help them go through whatever it is they're going through, then gosh. And it's so lovely what you're saying, because when I found out I was pregnant as well, I was also a bit like, oh my goodness me, what am I doing? Like, how is this going to work? And I also now feel like a much better version of myself. We have not had health issues, but a much better version of myself and a much better parent than I was before. And I think as cliche as it sounds, they come into our lives for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And everything is a learning curve, there's but it's good. Yeah. And life has challenges.
Yeah, it certainly does. Layla, unfortunately, was very ill this summer as well. We ended up in hospital for almost 3 months. Layla contracted whooping cough, and we were at our local hospital for a couple of weeks on and off, and then we were rushed into central London, and Layla was intubated again. And it was a really scary time. She was very, very ill. But amazingly powered through it all. And it was a difficult time again with the family. Layla and I were there at hospital for pretty much the whole of the summer holidays. So that was tough for the boys. It was tough for Dad, who was trying to hold down his job and look after the boys. But we got through it, and we're all back together again. But talking about just being a mum of three and how you deal with that. I was there with Layla for 2.5 months, and I'd obviously got so used to being focused on one child without like cleaning and washing up and cooking and all of that to do. So there were some lovely parts of the attention that I was able to give to her and the time that we were able to spend to each other. Obviously, it would have been much nicer if we weren't in a hospital setting. But when I got home, oh my goodness, I wasn't quite sure how on earth I spread my time between 3 children. I obviously did it before I went into hospital, but I couldn't fathom how on earth I was supposed to do this. And of course, because we'd been away, my boys needed me so much. So their need for me was greater. yeah, that was a difficult time, just trying to settle back in and just trying to give everything to each of them.
But that takes me on to, to this next thing where I'm thinking, who's looking after mummy,
Yeah, that's a good question.
right?
Yeah.
How does that work? So how do you look after yourself? Because I mean, as I said, I had a healthy baby. I had an absolute horrid time with mastitis, with abscess, with, I mean, it was horrid, 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 where I would just be in the bath all day or on the sofa all day, or, I mean, it was just horrendous in hindsight. And then my eardrum burst, and
Oh,
oh yeah, but then I couldn't like walk outside because everything was just so painful that, so you have all of these things, and but then you're also supposed to be the person that picks up from school, that cooks and helps with homework and puts them to bed, and but then the question is, as I said, who looks after mommy?
yeah.
Who does? Any
I
answers?
don't know. I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer. I know that I try currently. I'm just trying to do little bits. So, and it's slowly getting back because I really want to get back to my exercising in the morning. However, for the last 2 weeks, I have been getting up half an hour before the rest of the house and doing half an hour of yoga, which has been amazing. And getting in the bath just as everyone's starting to wake up so that I'm just ready for the day. Because otherwise, I just feel like I'm playing catch up and I'll never get out of my, scruffs, basically. But yeah, trying to make time and booking little things in here and there to go and enjoy. I've still not been for a massage. I've been trying to book one in for the last 2 months. I will get there. But yeah, most important, of course, is with diet. So, taking my whole food supplements, which I know you know all about,
Mhm.
every day, and really sticking a lot to a cleanse diet that you also know a lot about.
Yeah, I think I would have gone
Um,
under if I hadn't done this. I ate, I took all of the supplements, and I remember one day I came downstairs and my husband and my children said, "You've eaten all of the red and green ones. There are none left," because I was like, I cannot afford to get ill.
exactly, exactly. But yeah, really at the moment, that is, it's all through diet, really, making sure that I'm doing the sort of 80-20, just really making mindful choices of what I'm putting into my body because I know it will make a huge difference. And yeah, you can't afford to be ill. So
No, no, exactly. You cannot. But it's hard though when you're going through these phases, and they will be ups and downs for us all, really. But doing something that in the long run will support you, but in the short run, you're kind of like, but I just want that cake, I just want that glass of wine, or I just want that chocolate, or whatever it might be. I guess that's
yeah,
where the 20 comes in, right? There's sometimes,
exactly. There's
yeah.
always got to be a bit of time for the 20. But I find now, I mean, I was up in London for 2.5 months and I was pretty much living off hospital food for the last month and a half. Um, yeah, my skin is worse than it has been in a very long time. I mean, just seeing that difference, I will mostly eat home cooked organic food, um, every day of the week. So being up there, I have really noticed, what it has done to me for sure. And yes, having a glass of wine each night, because I wasn't allowed to stay with Layla the whole time because she was in ICU, or when she was on the ward, she was still having to wear a mask at night time. So she was never on a ward that I could stay with. So for that whole time, I had to leave her every evening, which was difficult.
And go
Which was
home.
difficult. Not home. I was given accommodation in
Good,
like the old nurses section. It
good.
was a bit like living in a sort of student accommodation with a very uncomfortable bed. Um, so a glass of wine each night was needed in order to actually fall to sleep, I think. Um, but yeah, so I was so happy to get home and be able to eat good food again. And scrap the glass of wine every night because it makes me feel fuzzy in the morning. You can
Yeah.
tell the difference.
Yeah. This
So
is
I was
coming from
just
an
so,
ex-winemaker as well. That's
I
interesting.
know, I know. It's not good, is it? What's happened?
What are you talking about? Listen, what do you think people should know about Down syndrome? What is it and what isn't it? And what have you found out so far that has been fascinating to you, or made you maybe worried, or think, well, this is really cool? Or is it anything that you can think of where you just, I guess, a bit surprised?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that, it's not an illness, it's not something that people are afflicted by. It's a condition
Yeah.
of an extra chromosome, which makes the body form and work in a slightly different way to other people. Um, and I think the most upsetting thing to learn about it is that when people are pregnant with babies that have Down syndrome, they can be aborted up until full term, which I couldn't quite believe that fact when I first learned it. And it's something that a lot of people have really tried to change, because the Disability Act doesn't actually come into effect until that baby is born. So they only have the same rights once they're born and not when they are still in the womb.
That's awful.
Yeah, yeah. It's it's not good. I can hear that Layla has just woken up.
Oh no. Oh no. So much for you
I know.
relaxing.
I know.
Does she not nap
Usually
very well?
she usually sleeps for 2 hours and she's just woken up.
Oh my God, bless you.
Bless her.
Oh
That was
goodness.
quick.
No,
She
but
does sleep for 12 hours every night though.
that is amazing. Good
Yeah,
girl. Good
I
girl. That
know.
makes a huge difference to you as
Yeah,
a mom, because
yeah.
it's taking the time to look after yourself. So listen, I'll let you go. But can you? I'd like to share some websites and some information with listeners so that they can educate themselves as well. So if you could send me those, we'll put that all out in the show notes. Because I
Great.
think it's so important what you're doing. And as you said, this Down Syndrome Awareness Month this October. So we'll
Yep.
get this episode out to everyone today so that they can learn straight away and be
Right.
inspired, hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, you go and cuddle your
I
gorgeous baby.
will. I will.
Thank
Bless
you
her. It was
so,
lovely chatting to you, Mary.
so lovely to see you. And yeah, hopefully we can catch up soon.
Yes.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Take care.
You've just listened to the Small Steps to Wellness show with Mari Craig. If you'd like to get in touch and discuss any of the topics you've listened to, then please reach out to me. The easiest way is probably to go to Instagram and look me up under Small Steps to Wellness. I would also love a great review if you think that the show was great. And also, perhaps you could consider passing it on to somebody you care about. Speak soon.